Let's go ahead and start with this lesson. It is on page 31. So if you're not on page 31 of your book, go ahead and pause the video and get to page 31. All right, page 31, it's just basically giving us an overall definition of rates. What we really want to go into is the next page. So our learning objective is to be able to calculate a unit rate. So let's go over this again. A rate is a ratio comparing two quantities of different kinds of units. A unit rate has a denominator of 1 unit when the rate is written as a fraction. So, to write a rate as a unit rate, divide the numerator and the denominator of the rate by the denominator. Go ahead and circle this last sentence. Circle this sentence right here. You might use that when we write our reflection in our math learning journal later. To write a rate as a unit rate, divide the numerator and denominator of the rate by the denominator. Now, this is an example. If the rate ratio is 15:5, we're talking about characters per second. So you write it as a rate, 15 characters per 5 seconds. And then if you divide the numerator and the denominator by this denominator, the smaller number, 15 divided by 5 is 3, 5 divided by 5 is 1. So you might even want to put that in there, divided by 5, divided by 5. All right, so you're dividing by that denominator. Now notice that the denominator is the greatest common factor. So just like what we learned with ratios, to simplify a fraction or a ratio written in fraction form, you divide by the greatest common factor. All right, let's take a look at our examples here. Example 1 is pretty much what we just did. Now, I would like you to pause this video right now, and after you pause it, I want you to copy this down by example 1. Again, this is something that you might want to use in your learning journal later. To simplify, divide numerator and denominator by the greatest common factor. So go ahead and pause and write that and then replay again. All right, so now that we've written this right here, we're going to go through example 1. Samantha picked 45 oranges in 5 minutes. Write this rate as a unit rate. So what we want to be able to do, a unit rate has a denominator of 1. So we want to write the rate as a fraction. That's 45 oranges over 5 minutes, or 45 oranges per 5 minutes. Comparing the number of oranges to the number of minutes, that's why we have oranges in the numerator. So now we want to divide by the greatest common factor, which is this denominator here, 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. That's key because it gives us a 1 in the denominator. And remember, a unit rate has to have a denominator of 1. So that's why you're dividing here by 5. And again, that's the greatest common factor. 45 divided by 5 is 9. So you could read it as the unit rate is 9 oranges per 1 minute. So 9 oranges per minute. All right, now let's go ahead and do, down at the bottom, this first example A. Emma downloaded 35 songs in 5 minutes. How many songs did she download per minute? So A right here, we want to have 35 songs per 5 minutes. And the next step was to divide the numerator and the denominator by the greatest common factor, which is the denominator, so we can get a unit rate with 1 in the denominator. So if we divide both by 5, which is this number right here, that will give us 35 divided by 5 is 7 songs per 5 minutes. So she would have listened to, 7 songs per 1 minute. Oops, did you catch that? So 7 songs per minute, because 5 divided by 5 is 1. So the answer is that she can download 7 songs per minute. 7 songs per minute. All right, cool. So that's the simple, basic way of finding a unit rate. Let's take a look at example 2. The Australian dragonfly can travel 18 miles in 30 minutes. How far can the dragonfly travel in 1 minute? So if you write the rate as a fraction, 18 miles per 30 minutes, you compare the distance to the number of minutes, miles per minute, and divide. Now here's the tricky part. Before, you could just divide by the denominator. It was a smaller number and both numbers it would work to divide by. But in this situation, we can't divide 18 by 30 and come out with an easy number. We can't divide 30 by 18. So what we have to do again is find the greatest common factor. So you might want to write a note that this is the greatest common factor. So 18 divided by 6 is 3, 30 divided by 6 is 5. So the ratio 3 to 5 cannot be simplified to a whole number rate. Like before, we had a 1 in the denominator. You can't do that in this situation. So the way that you write it is 3 miles per 5 minutes, or as the unit rate of 3/5 of a mile to 1 minute. So the dragonfly, the answer to this question, how far can he travel in 1 minute? 3/5 of a mile. So example 1, we could easily get a 1 in the denominator for that unit rate. In example 2, we couldn't, so we had to call it a fraction, 3/5 of a mile in 1 minute. So that's what we're going to do here in example B with Jonathan. So this is example B right here. Do this with me. And by the way, when we're doing these examples together, if you need to pause it to slow down and catch up, go ahead and do it. Or maybe you want to watch it first and then you want to go back and do it on your own. So Jonathan's baking several loaves of bread to sell in his bakery. He used 9 cups of water and 12 cups of whole wheat flour. How much water was used per cup of flour? So we need to make a fraction that has water per flour. So water over the flour. So 9 cups of water over 12 cups of flour. 9 cups of water over 12 cups of flour. Okay, so we can't divide by 9, we can't divide by 12, it just won't work. So we need to find the greatest common factor. The greatest common factor is 3. So you divide both numerator and denominator by 3. 9 divided by 3 is 3 cups of water. Sorry, it's really hard to write on this with the book bent. And then 12 divided by 3 would be 4 cups of flour. So since we don't have a 1 in the denominator, our ratio here, 3 cups of water for every 4 cups of flour, you can just look here. 3 cups of water, 3/4 of a cup of water in 1 cup of flour. So just like they had to turn this into a fraction, part of the 1, that's what we have to do here. How much water was used per cup of flour? 3/4 cup of water. So 3/4 cup of water per 1 cup of flour. Now, later on, these are the 2 examples that you're going to be using in the practice a lot, right? So when it says to refer back to example 1 and 2, you also have these examples of 1 and 2 that we did down here. All right, let's go to example 3. This one's a little bit more complicated, but I'm going to walk you through it. An adult's heart beats about 2,100 times every 30 minutes. A baby's heart beats about 2,600 times every 20 minutes. How many more beats does a baby's heart beat in 60 minutes than the adult's heart? So if you first find the unit rate, that can get you beats per minute. So the numerator and denominator was divided here by the denominator. Same with this one's divided by 20 because that's the denominator. And it gave them 70 beats in 1 minute, 130 beats in 1 minute. But the question asks, how many more beats does a baby's heart beat in 60 minutes than an adult heart? So using that unit rate of 70 beats per minute for the adult, 70 times 60, because they want to know in 60 minutes, not in 1 minute. That's 4,200. For the baby, 130 beats times 60 minutes is going to be 7,800 beats. And they just want to know the difference. So they took the babies and they took away the adults, and that gave you 3,600. So a baby's heart beats 3,600 more times in 60 minutes than an adult heart. Now, this was complicated because you had to do this step 2, where you find the number of beats in 60 minutes, and it was kind of using big numbers. So we're going to cross off this, and we're going to do an example together on page 34 that's a little bit easier. So go ahead and turn to page 34. We're going to look at number 5. All right, so this is page 34, number 5. It says Molly shot 20 baskets in 4 minutes. Nico shot 42 baskets in 6 minutes. So how many more baskets did Nico shoot per minute? So the first thing that they want you to do in the example is find the unit rate. Then we can find the difference. So we're going to find the unit rate. So this is for Molly. Molly had 20 baskets in 4 minutes. To find the unit rate, we divide by the greatest common factor, or the denominator in this case. All right, 20 divided by 4 is 5 baskets per 1 minute. So 5 baskets per 1 minute. So that's Molly. Now we need to find Nico. So we need to get Nico's unit rate. This is Molly's unit rate. Let's get Nico. All right, Nico could shoot 42 baskets in 6 minutes. So let's divide. 42 can be divided by 6. 6 can be divided by 6, and that'll give us our denominator of 1, which is what we want. So 42 divided by 6 would be 7 baskets in 1 minute. So if Molly can shoot 5 baskets in a minute, Nico can shoot 7 baskets in a minute. How many more did Nico shoot? He shot 7, she shot 5. 7 take away 5 baskets is 2. So he could shoot 2 baskets more than Molly. And if you need to pause that and work it and then look back at this, go ahead and do it. If you need to rewind and see that again, this is a good, easier way to do example 3. Okay, so there's just one more thing, and it's super basic. Just to recap, we had to find a unit rate. A unit rate is going to have 1 as a denominator. Sometimes you have a situation where you can't get 1 as the denominator, so it turns into a fraction of 1. So this turned into 3/5 of 1, 3/5 of a mile to 1 minute. Then we went over here and we calculated unit rates and found the difference. And in this last one, we're just going to change the rate to money. So it's finding a unit price. You can use what you know about unit rates to find a unit price. The unit price is the cost per unit. To write a price as a unit price, divide the numerator and denominator of the rate by the denominator. So same thing, you're dividing by the denominator to get a 1 down in the denominator. So it's $9 per ticket. If it costs $36 for 4 tickets, the unit price is $9 per ticket. All right, here's just a quick example of that. This is on page 34. 4 potted plants cost $88. So what's the price per plant? You write the rate as a fraction, $88 for 4 plants. You compare the total cost to the number of plants. So we're going to divide so we can get it per 1 plant. So divide 88 by 4 and 4 by 4. And that's going to give you $22 for 1 plant. The unit price is going to be $22 per plant. Each plant costs $22. We just want to make sure that we show our work. So make sure you show what you're dividing by when you show your work today. Now it's time for the guided practice. So we want to make sure that you have a partner for this. So check in with your table partner. If he or she isn't ready, you can check in with the teacher to find out what to do while you're waiting. We are going to do, in our to-do list, it says we need to do number 1, 2, 4, and 6. And these are going to move pretty quickly. For number 1 and 2, it's really basic, finding the unit rate. For number 4, it's a little bit trickier because you can't just divide both numerator and denominator by the same number. So that's a little trickier. And then we just have a little story problem in number 6. So go ahead and do number 1 with your partner, pause the video, and then push play and check and see how you did. So for number 1, we're writing the rate as a unit rate. We have 44 points in 4 quarters. So we can divide 44 by 4. So we're just going to divide the numerator and denominator by the denominator. So we can get a 1 in our denominator, making that a unit rate. And 44 divided by 4 is 11 because 4 times 11 equals 44. So the answer here is there's 11 points per quarter. All right, pause, do number 2, and then check your work. So for number 2, we set it up the same way. We have 125 feet in 5 seconds. 125 feet in 5 seconds. So we set this rate up as a fraction. And then 125 can be divided by 5. So we're going to divide both the numerator and denominator by the denominator so we can get a 1 for our unit rate in the denominator. So 5 divided by 5 is 1. Now 5 times what is 25? I'm thinking there are 5 times 25 because 5 quarters, 5 25-cent pieces would be $1.25. So there are 20 feet per second, or 25 feet per second. Okay, so we're going to skip number 3 and move on to number 4. 12 meters in 28 seconds. So set this up as a fraction, and then you can't divide by 28. So you're going to have to find the greatest common factor of 12 and 28. All right, so I would say 12 meters in 28 seconds. There's my rate. Now, what's the greatest common factor of 12 and 28? I'm going to do this here, 3 times 4. 3 is prime. 2 times 2 equals 4. And then for 28, what about 3 times 7? Those are both prime. Oh, actually, it's 4 times 7, and 4 is not prime. So 2 times 2, bring down the 7. All right, so then we circle the common. They both have 2 in common. So 2 times 2 is 4. So our greatest common factor is 4. So if we divide both the numerator and denominator by 4, we can simplify this. So 4 times 3 is 12, or 12 divided by 4 is 3. 4 times 7 is 28, or 28 divided by 4 is 7. So that's meters per second. So that would be, there's 3/7 of a meter in 1 second. And that was kind of like what we did in the example. I'm going to turn to this page here. When we said that there was 3/4 cups of water per 1 cup of flour. All right, we have one more in the guided practice. Do number 6. This is like example 4 at the top of this page. So it's the same kind of thing, just a little story problem, and then check your work. For Carolina's birthday, her mom took her and 4 friends to a water park. Carolina's mom paid $40 for 5 student tickets. What was the price for 1 student ticket? So $40 for 5 tickets. We want to know what the price was for 1 ticket. So if we divide by the denominator 5, 40 divided by 5 is 8 because 5 times 8 equals 40. So $8 per ticket. So the price of 1 student ticket was $8. All right, now we're moving on from our partner, so say goodbye to your partner, and we're going to try our independent practice. So check off that you're done with guided practice on your to-do list, and we're going to see on our to-do list it says we need to do 1, 2, 4, and 7. So go ahead and do these 4 problems on your own and then check your answers with the video. These 2 right here are just like what we did over here. This one, it's going to be a little bit like number 4. And number 7 is going to be just like what we did for number 6. All right. So there were a couple tricky parts here. This first one was pretty basic. 72 divided by 6 and 6 divided by 6. You just divide by the denominator to get 1 for the unit rate, so it's 12 ounces per steak. For number 2, I think you might have wanted to use a calculator to do 162 divided by 9, but you get 18 bottles per case. Number 4, if you got this one wrong, it's probably because you set up the fraction wrong. It's asking how much turkey per sandwich, so it needs to be turkey in the numerator per sandwich in the denominator. So in 12 and 27, the greatest common factor is 3, so you divide both numerator and denominator by 3 to simplify this into 4/9. So it's 4/9 pounds of turkey in each sandwich. And then number 7, this was pretty basic, so it's $12 for 3 miles, and divide by 3, divide numerator and denominator by 3 to get the unit rate, so $4 per mile. Okay, you can check this off your to-do list. If you have any questions, check in with someone before you do the reflection. So here's the reflection for lesson 3. I can calculate a unit rate. First, tell us what a unit rate is. So finish that sentence, make it a complete sentence. Then it says to calculate a unit rate, I'm trying to get a blank in the denominator. So fill this in. What number are you trying to get in the denominator? If I write the rate as a fraction, I can simplify it to a unit rate by, what do you do to simplify that fraction? And then these 2 we're going to show our work. So if Davis prints 24 photos in 8 minutes, he can print blank photos per minute. So how do you find the answer to that? And if Carrie makes 12 bracelets in 48 minutes, she can make blank bracelets per minute. So show your work for 3 and 4. Set up the fraction, show what you divide by, show your unit rate. All right, there you have it.